I got into keto kind of on a, I don't know if any path is, normal, but on a pretty interesting path. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor that was on accident. I fell and hit my head training one day, specifically in March 2010. And
training with
BMX, BMX training. I was trying a new trick. So I tried it in the foam pit, did 10 in a row, was perfect. We didn't have what we have now, was like a padded ramp. Back then we had the foam pit and the real ramp. That was it. Now we have it in between, so it's got some cushion. We steal all that stuff from gymnastics. But tried it on the real ramp, felt real confident, and it was a smaller, like a foot smaller, so I rotated harder to do the trick. Over rotated, fell, hit my head, got to get a concussion, had to get an MRI. And leading up to that point, about a year, I'd gone to the emergency room, urgent care, multiple times of these debilitating migraines,
so you were having headaches,
vision loss, throwing up.
Oh no.
But what was interesting was when I was younger, my mom said I went through migraines and headaches quite a bit, like third or fourth grade, I believe. And I remember them, burying my head in a pillow. I'd get sick, I'd feel better sometimes, but sometimes I just kind of cry myself to sleep. And so I thought that they were coming back. Every time I went to the doctor's office, I was asking, hey, should we get an x-ray, CAT scan, MRI? No, you're young, you're only 21. You're in shape, blood work checks out, here's some pain pills, you don't need a scan, you just have headaches. A lot of people have headaches. Manage it with this. So I did that for a while, and I actually didn't take the meds just because my stomach doesn't do well with them, so I throw up. But the last time I went in there, it was that bad that I took them. And actually, it was the first time I projectile vomited in the car, so that was interesting. Yeah. Got on the side of the road. This was the first time I ever thought I was literally dying because I was throwing up so much, blood started coming out. Very, very dark red blood. I thought I was dead. And so that was leading up to the point where I hit my head, went in for an MRI to check it out. They came back and told me they found a very large mass taking over the left side of my brain, and that was the day I was told that I may die. And that's what sparked this journey of holistic health and the passion for it. And it was more fear-based, like maybe this happened because of the way I was living my life, and then how can I prevent it from coming back? Ironically, 2 years later, 2 areas grew back because of the complications. The original surgery was taking up, the tumor was taking up it's like space around the main artery and my optic nerve. So Dr. Alan Friedman at Duke didn't want to hurt those, and so he said it could have just been residual cell growth coming back, nothing to worry about, let's just look at radiation. So I took to Dr. Google, found gamma knife radio treatment, went through that, shrunk for 2 years, 4 years now. But along that recovery, I got super interested in holistic health. Just what can I do to prevent this? What can I eat? How can I think? How can I move? And one thing led to another, and I just came across different resources and information. Went through a health coaching program, and it wasn't until I got into Dr. Perlmutter's work, which led me to
David Perlmutter.
Yeah, Dr. David Perlmutter.
Grain Brain.
Grain Brain. I actually read that in 2013, and that book changed my life because my focus was how can I take care of my brain. And so a friend of mine gave me that book, and just the things I was learning about blood sugar and grains, and it doesn't matter if it's organic or not, like sugar. And right. There was a little bit of talk of keto. I remember I went recently and looked, there's about a page and a half, but not much of how to implement it, how to adopt that lifestyle. And so I was low carb, high fat for a good while, and started making more changes. Was still drinking alcohol, even though I cut out sugar, I was still drinking alcohol occasionally and doing a lot of things that now I don't do, and you learn as you go. But that was 2013. I read his book, and then later on I went through the health coaching program, got introduced to a person named Mark Sisson and Gary Taubes, learned even more about sugar and blood sugar and high fat, low carb. And then along the way, I kept learning with different people and learning more about the ketogenic diet. And then it wasn't until February 2017, a routine scan at Duke showed 2 new masses on the opposite side of my brain now had grown, so a total of 4. And although gamma knife shrunk the original 2 regrowths for about 4 years, they're stable now, those 2 additional ones popped up. And they told me a biopsy is the only way to know, but we think you have what's called neurofibromatosis. So they said it's a genetic disorder that creates brain and spinal cord tumors. Something
totally different than...
Yeah.
What was the original tumor type, do you know?
They're meningiomas.
Okay.
They're said to be benign. So my understanding of cancer versus benign, I still need to learn more because now I have 4,
So benign means it won't spread somewhere else.
To other parts of your body?
Right, it won't metastasize or spread.
Okay.
Malignant means that it's more will grow faster and has the tendency to spread somewhere else. So if you have a benign tumor removed, the chances of it coming back are much less likely.
Okay, so then it came back in two areas, and then two on the opposite side. So I don't know. They told me, they think it's a genetic disorder. Luckily, this is something I love saying because people's reaction is funny. But I'm like, luckily I don't have spinal cord tumors, just brain tumors. People kind of wrap their mind around that perspective.
So did you read that the keto diet might be good for cancer? Is that how you got into this, or brain cancers, or what? I'm just curious how you entered into this, into the keto world.
Yeah, exactly. I learned, the ketogenic diet may help certain cancers, certain tumors. It's anti-inflammatory. There's an epigenetic response, which I have a brief understanding of that. So when they said it's a genetic disorder, tumors, I put, a bunch of these things together, and that diagnosis was the third diagnosis, but that's when I put the diet into my lifestyle and I became passionate about it and committed to it. And so with the tumors I live with not being cancerous, them being, technically benign, I don't know what, was the cause of that, a year later follow-up MRI showed no progression. So who knows, but, from my understanding of everything I could be doing to reduce inflammation at least, and, all the different things like oxidative stress and, cell division, like putting all these pieces together from my understanding, I was like, oh, maybe that's what did it. And so I, become passionate about continuing with that lifestyle. And
so Tom Seyfried is a biologist who wrote a book about this thick called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease.
Mm-hmm.
And in there he relearned what was thought to be true 100 years ago, which that cancer relies on glucose use. So we know now that some cancers do, some don't. Mm-hmm. But some tumors, whether even benign or malignant, might prefer glucose for their fuel. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is to starve the cancer or reduce the growth by not eating so much sugar, and starches get digested to sugar, that sort of thing. The science in animal models, the University of South Florida in Tampa, Don D'Agostino and that group, in animals like mice, if you do the keto diet and use hyperbaric oxygen together, there seems to be a synergistic effect against the tumor growth. Mm-hmm. What's interesting, people come to me all the time I have cancer, I want to do the keto diet, and I will say that I think anyone can do the keto diet. It's healthy eating. Mm-hmm. I mean, I eat this way, but I won't guarantee or put any claims that it's going to help the cancer yet, just because the studies haven't been done in people.
Yeah, of course.
But now so I'm in the medical world, and I have to wait until certain studies are done. I wonder, from your perspective, you must have thought, well, gosh, I'll at least try it, or what? There's no guarantee that it's going to help, but what's your thought process in continuing to do the keto diet?
So it's just, it's a choice that we have, and I'd rather not go through drugs or surgeries, and so just, what we've been learning.
But there's no guarantee that it's going to help,
yeah,
right?
So it's just, to me, it's the only option is to give it an effort and give it a try. And
so they haven't talked about surgery and radiation again?
Well, they suggested, Gamma knife would be an option, but that we would assess it after that 1 year follow-up. So that 1 year follow-up showed no progression. But ironically, right, I implemented the ketogenic diet at that same time. So to know what really did it, or if they just stopped, who knows?
And who cares?
Yeah, right? It doesn't matter to me. And so by sharing, though, with other people, the ketogenic diet and coaching them through the process, I've had, one of my clients just got off his, I think it was metformin. He just got off a couple weeks ago, and is now getting ketone readings, and he's removing weight, feeling energized, doing intermittent fasting, and no problems.
So this, your experience has led you to now coach other people in how to do it.
Yeah, I've been so it started with sharing my story just in general of, back in 2010, overcoming the brain tumor, specifically the BMX community. And then as that kept, snowballing, I went through the Gamma knife treatment, and then continued sharing that story. And then the Gamma knife company, Electa, reached out to me to partner to share my story even more. And so along the way, I gained, a lot of mainstream coverage, which I never imagined would be a thing. Like, I did an article for GQ and People specifically about my diet and the brain tumor experience in BMX. And then so I kept sharing, and then people would reach out, like, can you help me? Like, what should I do? And at first I'd go read some books, here's some great ones to check out. give him some advice, and then I went through the health coaching certification program, and that was my way of learning in a structured format, which ironically the first thing they said to us is, we're going to throw so many conflicting things at you because we want to teach you how to think, not what to think. And so I get frustrated away, but after I learned more and more, it just made sense. But then it was also a way to share the information with others. At the time, I was reading articles that were from credible doctors, studies, all this and that, but I was just sharing what the, long story short part of it was. And then people would say, how does that work? I didn't know. I just was like, so I got a lot of people attacked me verbally or, written on social media and stuff. And it just kind of frustrated me. I was like, I'm, kind of a nerd myself. I love learning how things work. So why not learn more? So I continue learning more, and then, more people were reaching out. Hey, can you help me? So yeah, sure.
That's fantastic. So now that you're coaching other people on how to do it, is it hard to be a coach? Is it hard to help people?
No, it's just great. Intuitive, like I love sharing, I love helping, so it just fits. And then the more I learn, the more I have to offer, and the more I experience myself, and yeah, it's just great. And it's fulfilling because it's led me from my passion for BMX and like a dream to become a professional athlete, and then now these circumstances I've gone through, it's like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I can't ride forever, and I can't make money at riding forever. I need to provide. So what better way than helping people? So it just makes sense.
That's great. So the doctors you were introduced to at Duke, the neurosurgeons, they're on the other side of the campus where I work. So we don't talk a lot. Yeah. I'm curious to know what Dr. Friedman thinks about the keto diet these days. Did he know anything about it, I wonder?
I actually haven't talked to him in a couple of months now. It was just, some checkup stuff about MRIs, and I asked him for imaging and stuff like that. But I remember,
do.
Yeah, I want to, because I remember it was about 2013. It was after I went through Gamma Knife. I think it was 2013 or 14 when I learned about Mark Hyman, and like he had a book called The Blood Sugar Solution, I think, and like I started learning more about certain tumors having insulin receptors on them to allow them to grow. And I asked Dr. Friedman, like, hey, what do you know about this? And he's like, that's an interesting area. There's a lot to learn, and some tumors have that, but yours doesn't. And I was like, okay. And then that was it. And then so it'd be interesting to share the keto diet with him now and see what he thinks. But
yeah. Well, it's interesting how even some surgeons are more open to the diet than medical doctors. So my background is in internal medicine and obesity medicine, and I get a lot of referrals from orthopedic surgeons, from heart doctors actually, who have to do heart surgery. So the surgeons in my mind, seem to be a little more open to changing the nutrition. Well, I wonder if it's because they don't think it matters, or they think it might not be powerful. But as you know now, changing the food can be quite powerful.
Yeah, no. So when I went through ACL surgery in 2015, I didn't know I was following a ketogenic diet. I was already, low carb, high fat, but I was like, backing up before that, I went through a depressed phase where I was just scared of anything that was a vegetable, carbohydrate, because to me, I didn't know the difference between added sugar and then starches and carbohydrates from vegetables, so I thought everything turns to sugar. So I lost like 30 pounds, like unhealthily, and I felt bad, and I was in this weird state. But that's when I started to learn more after that, like, oh, so eating broccoli, even though it is a carbohydrate, it does turn to sugar eventually, like, it's not bad, like, but other, starches and stuff like that. So as I learned more, when I had to get reconstructive surgery on my knee for ACL and a whole other bunch of junk, I was like, okay, well, inflammation is a huge aspect of, a recovery and surgery in general. I was fortunate enough to do 2 months of prehab for the surgery before to get my leg muscle built up to not lose too much muscle, but at the same time, I was like, no sugar, no berries, no fruits of any kind, no alcohol, no grains, like just lots of fat, and then we'll figure out my protein as I go. And because of doing that, I don't remember exactly what I was doing macro-wise, so I don't know, I wasn't testing, so I don't know if I was in ketosis, but the outcome of that surgery was half as swollen as the typical person that comes out.
That's what
no
they
pain
told
meds
you.
were needed after that, yeah.
And no pain meds.
They were amazed with how much swelling I didn't have.
So I hear that frequently
from
my patients who go through operations. The surgeons usually say that is a speedy recovery time, which we think is less inflammation, having adequate and good protein sources going into it. That's fantastic.
I was stoked.
Well, thank you so much for letting us know your story, and I wish the best for you. where are you headed now? What do you want to do? And I guess I wanted to finally ask if are you still bicycling, whatever, BMXing?
Yeah, bike riding.
At the same level as before?
Yeah, I can show you a video actually from today. I rode a little bit with my friend from Australia who's visiting, and
No, I'll believe you. I don't
yeah.
see the video.
But yeah, I ride the same level. I like to say, like, if I had the opportunity to compete or wanted to compete again, I could hang. I just.
So will you be
focus
combining the biking and speaking on keto together? Is that going to be the part of the future, you think?
So I'd love to be able to use my BMX riding for like content creation, storytelling, and videos, and like conversations like this, but then add in, the wow effect of BMX. And I've learned that I don't need to compete anymore to have that identity of who I am, and to really, it's just a helpful way to get my story in the door to people who normally may just blow me off and just not want to talk to me. But, oh, you're a professional athlete, and oh, you live with 4 brain tumors. Oh, you want to talk about keto now? Like, cool. Like, so I just kind of use it. It's a passion of mine. I have no obligation to ride anymore. I have no sponsors paying me or telling me to go to this contest or that. So I just solely ride because I love it. Maybe not so often anymore because I'm more passionate about helping people and learning. But at the same time, I'd love to be able to use that as I start speaking more and then doing other content, whether it's a book or a video.
That's going to open more doors than the number of letters after my name and degrees and papers and all that, so that's fantastic.
Well, that's honestly why it's such an honor to connect with someone like yourself and then other people, is because I feel like I could be a partner in helping get the information to the people that normally wouldn't maybe take to it. But also, if you look at me, you would never think anything's wrong with me, and that's another huge aspect. I didn't get into this this keto journey because of weight. Like, I've always been in pretty good shape, maybe a little bit chubbier back then, but now that I've removed the carbs and the sugars, I'm a little bit more lean. But it never was about weight loss, or like I'd say weight removal, because I like to tell people loss means you are implying you want it back, so it's a little mindset trick I've learned. But same thing with don't judge a book by its cover. So I feel like my story can resonate with a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't need to lose weight, or I don't want to lose weight, but like I want to feel better, I want to sleep better, I want to have more energy, I want to have less risk of disease. So being able to connect with people like yourself that are doing the research and are in the clinical setting, have this experience, and then being able to partner to share that, like videos like this or other events or anything, it's like a dream come true.
I'd like to support you in any way that I can.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Likewise. So,
is there anything else that you wanted to share that's on your mind today?
The only other thing I would say is there's something that's close to my heart, and it's called the Athlete Recovery Fund. They're a nonprofit for professional action sports athletes to help them with medical care. When I get diagnosed, they flew my parents out to Duke. They put them up in a hotel. They paid for whatever my medical, health insurance didn't pay for. And we're working on getting an event going to where we can do BMX shows, but more of like an all-day event of everything wellness. So meditation, cooking workshops, yoga, fitness, kick it off with a BMX show, but really geared to raise money for the brain tumor patients, brain injury patients, cancer patients directly, with like a scholarship fund, if you will, something where they can apply for help. And there's so much, I feel like there's a lot more needed, but there's so much research out there, and nonprofits raising money for it. But being a patient and like knowing the stress financially, like I want to be able to make that difference, and I'd like to say, be the change you want to see. So I want to become that change. So
it's
Athlete Recovery Fund.
Athlete Recovery Fund.
Yep, they're helping me out. Yeah, athleterecoveryfund.org, and then there's a tab that says Josh Perry, and it has like a little video I made and the description of what we're trying to do. But that's the only other thing I'd mention, is just that's something I want to get going one day, and I want to be able to help people that need the help now. Whether that's like Whole Foods donating a year worth of food vouchers for them, or there's other organizations that do, like Airbnb and Lyft just started offering like free services to cancer patients, things like that. So yeah, that's the other project I have in mind.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks
so much.
Appreciate it.